This is CBC Winnipeg News.
Good evening. Thanks for joining us. If rural Manitobans need to visit their local ER this holiday season, it may not be open. Doctors Manitoba says many rural and northern ERs have either limited hours or are closed. It says the unreliable hours are a result of staffing shortages. CBC's Chelsea Kemp has the story.
When rural Manitobans visit their local ER this holiday season, the door may be locked. Doctors Manitoba wants people to plan for the worst case scenario. They say of the province's 70 hospitals with an ER, only 18 are open 24/7. Dr. Nichelle Desolé says ER care is getting worse instead of better.
It's reflective of the how close we are to being able to provide full scope services, 24-hour services, and how much that depends on just, if you're looking at a staffing line, one or two bodies.
Doctors Manitoba launched ruralcare.ca in 2022 so people can see if their nearest ER is open. This year, only 25% of centers will be open 24/7 over the holiday season. ERs in Pinawa, Roblin, and Altona are one of 24 that will have limited hours, while others like Gladstone, Morris, and Rossburn, along with 25 more, face long-term shutdowns. The Manitoba Association of Healthcare Professionals says ERs have been struggling with staff for a decade. But, they say, there are steps the province can take to help.
They need to get a competitive contract in place for allied health professionals across the province and across the occupations. They absolutely should be implementing incentives for retention specifically, and also recruitment.
Desolé says what will have the biggest impact is more staff on the ground.
We just need more bodies. We need more physicians, we need more nurses, we need more allied healthcare providers. Right now, when we have these staffing schedules that are really tenuous and kind of just hanging by a thread, it's often the same group of local individuals that are stepping up.
Desolé says she is optimistic things will get better. There's more rural family doctors working in communities. That means people are getting care before they end up in the ER. Chelsea Kemp, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The NDP promised to fix health care in the last election, and now they're making cuts. The government says it's only targeting the bloated administration, but one union says the impact of those cuts are being felt on the front line. The CBC's Ian Fraze reports.
The health minister doesn't want to call the province's new directive to redistribute healthcare funding a cut.
There's no cut that's been made. Instead of spending more money on suits, we should be spending our money on scrubs on the front lines.
Health authorities have been ordered to redirect 8% of what they spend on bureaucracy to the bedside.
That sounds great to me too.
But the nurses' union is skeptical.
In my heart, I don't think that's exactly what's going to happen.
Already, Darlene Jackson says they're feeling the cut. Some facilities aren't filling some nursing shifts.
It clearly means that everyone on the floor is working short, which has a huge impact on patient care.
The NDP's move is reminiscent to the former PC government in 2017 ordering management costs slashed by 15%.
I believe that employers, went leaner then, so I'm not really sure that there is a place to cut in bureaucracy.
But Yazoma Asaguera feels differently. The NDP has talked for a while about spending less on administration.
The 8% number is a number that is certainly very achievable.
And if some employers are cutting elsewhere,
I want to know about it. It's unacceptable.
Opposition PC health critic Kathleen Cook says the cut will come as a surprise to some Manitobans who voted NDP.
I don't think they expected the NDP to find savings in healthcare, of all places.
The government wouldn't say how much money it plans to redirect, but Jackson was told the cuts to administration are around $40 to $50 million. Ian Fraze, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Some restaurants are calling on the province to crack down on crime, and their concerns are being taken to the Justice Minister. They say property crime is a problem they can't afford to keep dealing with. CBC's Zubina Ahmed reports.
Saroj Nagpal has owned the India Palace restaurant on Ellis Avenue for over 30 years. She regularly has to deal with break-ins and vandalism.
I have a shutter outside, but still we have a young kids. They are on the age of 8 to teenager age, 15. They come and scream without any reason. That's one thing. And theft, vandalism is everywhere in Canada at this moment.
Nagpal says her restaurant window was broken a couple of months ago. That's why she installed the metal shutter. She worries about the violence but says her loyal customers still visit.
Yeah, we open till 10.
Till 10. So since it's open till late in the night, any particular safety measures for your employees or anything have you taken?
Yeah, they are very well protected. Yeah.
Like how?
They know how to handle the situation.
Concerns like Nagpal's are coming from other restaurants too. The CEO of the Manitoba Restaurant and Food Services Association met with the Justice Minister Tuesday to talk about the violence.
Our industry has been stricken with various levels of both property crime and potential issues with crime in the industry. It's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. It's a challenge for most Manitobans.
Jeffrey wouldn't give specific about what was discussed with the minister.
We're working with this provincial government, as we have been for some time now, on a collaborative approach to solving and trying to, further create a better and more safe environment in our industry.
India Palace says they do what they can to make customers and staff feel safe. Zubina Ahmed, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The City of Winnipeg is preparing to release its 2025 budget tomorrow. One question many people are asking is what will happen to the community connection space inside the Millennium Library. With its space just inside the doors of the Millennium Library, the community connection space offers a low barrier access point to people looking for information.
This innovative, effective space is also one of the busiest spaces in Millennium.
From October last year until September this year, Community Connections handled 24,300 requests for service, 45% of all library requests at Millennium. The space is staffed with librarians and community crisis workers, helping people access library services, housing, counseling, or to use a phone or photocopier. Despite those attendance numbers, funding for Community Connections is set to run out at the end of the year. Kirsten Werman is a coordinator with the Manitoba Library Association.
And I've heard from staff that they're very concerned about what will happen to their patrons, to the folks that they serve here at Community Connections. And they also worry about the staff and the library space itself.
Safety and security have been ongoing concerns at the library. A man was fatally stabbed inside the lobby 2 years ago. Former Community Services Chair Evan Duncan questioned whether the library is the appropriate place for the service. He also said the province should fund it. Arguments echoed by current Chair Vivian Santos, who declined to comment before the budget release. Unless new funding materializes, Community Connections is set to close after December 31st. Cameron McLean, CBC News, Winnipeg.
A Winnipeg woman has been sentenced to 12 years in prison for a child abuse case a judge has called breathtaking in its brutality. And a warning, some of the details are disturbing. The offenses took place over a 4-year period. The 12-year-old girl suffered multiple fractures to her spine from being beaten with metal bars, rods, wooden planks, and an extension cord over the years. The 46-year-old withheld food from the girl for up to 2 days at a time. Nicole Ackaby pleaded guilty to aggravated assault, criminal negligence causing bodily harm, and failing to provide the necessaries of life. Ackaby had been acting as the child's guardian since she was 2, but is not related. Her 23-year-old daughter has also been charged. Her case remains before the courts. Weather specialist Riley Laychuk in now. And Riley, oh my goodness. I thought it was nice out last night, but things are shifting.
Things are really changing, Brittany, and we're looking at a couple of very cold mornings ahead for many of us in Manitoba. So I'm going to start with the extreme that's in place for Pilot Mountain, Barney, Brandon, the Westman region, Dauphin, Swan River, see wind chills as cold as -40 into the early morning hours on Wednesday. Putting this into context, this is frostbite on exposed skin in about 10 minutes. Combine that with some wind, and we are looking at maybe even some fewer numbers there as we get into the early morning hours. A few stray flurries, maybe a little bit of light snow through the Red River Valley, but look at all this clearing to the north and to the west, and this is what's going to happen as we get through the overnight hours tonight. A clearing sky, wind stays strong. We are looking at some blowing snow overnight with winds sticking at about northwest 20 to 40, -24 first thing in the morning, feeling closer to -35 at around that wake-up hour, 7, 8 o'clock with the wind chill. And we're looking at mostly sunny afternoon, a bit of clouds, Brittany, -21, far off of our normal daytime high. And we've got another one of these coming up. I'll have more when I come back.
I'm going to pull out my heated blanket.
Yeah.
Thanks, Riley. A Winnipeg chiropractor is under police investigation after hidden cameras were found in treatment rooms. The latest on the CBC investigation, straight ahead. Winnipeg police are investigating after a local chiropractor was accused of placing video cameras in fake sprinkler heads in treatment rooms. Those allegations are raising concerns about privacy and the lack of transparency within the industry in Manitoba. The I-Team's Caroline Bargout has that story.
Dr. Robert Stitt worked as a chiropractor for 25 years. His social media says he helps people with different types of body pain. According to search warrant documents, in January, a patient of his filed a complaint with the Manitoba Chiropractors Association, alleging that Stitt inappropriately touched her back. Now, Stitt denied the allegations and said he could prove he did nothing wrong because he has video. He then scrolled through a bunch of video looking for the exact date and time. That's when the court documents say the investigator from the Manitoba Chiropractors Association noticed at least 3 women in various stages of undress. The search warrant documents say one of the females was facing the camera with her breasts exposed. In these videos, it appeared that the unknown females had no idea they had been filmed. The cameras were hidden in the ceiling in fake sprinkler heads. Inside his vacant office, holes in the ceilings in the treatment rooms are still visible. There is no valid reason to have hidden cameras in treatment rooms, according to privacy expert Ann Kavukian.
Can you imagine you're going in for treatment of a medical condition and your bare breasts are captured on video and you're not aware of it, you haven't consented to it? Totally unacceptable.
The Manitoba Chiropractors Association called Winnipeg police, who launched an investigation into the alleged voyeurism. That was in January. Stitt's office is now closed, but it's not clear if he's still allowed to practice. That's because the Manitoba Chiropractors Association will not answer questions, and there's no requirement for transparency because chiropractors are not yet part of the Regulated Health Professions Act, which mandates they make discipline findings public. We found out about this case because police filed an affidavit in support of the request for a search warrant for Stitt's office, which CBC News has obtained. Health Minister Uzoma Asagwara didn't know about the allegations until CBC News contacted the province with questions. The minister said the government can't fast-track the process to include chiropractors in the Regulated Health Professions Act, but the department is looking for other options.
This being raised and brought to my attention and to our attention made very clear for us that there are some steps that we need to look at taking immediately while the work of these folks being brought under the Act is underway.
Harry Caton is an international advisor on professional regulation.
Transparency is a great antiseptic. It cleans up organizations. All kinds of organizations should do, especially those that are in the public interest, should do their activities in the clear light of day and not in the dark or in secret.
As far as we can tell, Stitt is not currently practicing, but according to his social media, he was looking for work earlier this year. It is unclear if the Chiropractors Association's investigation resulted in any findings against Stitt. That's because the regulations forbid disclosure, so they won't tell us anything. In fact, after we started asking questions, the association sent out a letter to Manitoba chiropractors, advising them not to talk to media. No charges have been laid, and Winnipeg police say they're still investigating. Stitt did not respond to requests for comment. Caroline Bargout, CBC News, Winnipeg.
The cold is coming, and that has the city of Winnipeg urging people to be ready. With temperatures expected to dip to around -30, the city suggests older adults and young children avoid spending long periods of time outdoors in the extreme cold. The city also suggests you check on older friends, relatives, or neighbors who live alone. And don't let pets outside for a long period of time. People can warm up inside city facilities when they're open. Riley's back, and Riley, I know I should be prepared. I should be ready. We're well into December, but I'm not ready for these kinds of temperatures.
Yeah. It's going to be a sudden blow to your system if you're not used to cold like this. So
and dangerous.
And dangerous in some cases as well, particularly in the west where we're looking at some very extreme wind chills. So I want to show you the upper level winds to start here. Just to situate ourselves a little bit. I know there's a little bit going on here, but we'll break it all down for you. So we have the jet stream here, this river of air in the atmosphere, and what that is doing is really funneling in some of this very cold Arctic air along this northwesterly flow right into Manitoba and Saskatchewan, creating this very deep trough in the jet stream, really allowing that air to sink quite a ways south. And this is what's going to really cool our temperatures down as we get through Wednesday, Thursday, before we start to see a little bit of moderation by the time we get into Friday. So few scattered flurries still yet to come into northwestern Ontario through the evening tonight. Could see the odd flurry in southern Manitoba, but we do see clearing west to east as we get through the overnight hours. Starting Wednesday with a mainly clear sky, mainly sunny sky with a little bit of cloud hanging around. So there will be a little bit of cloud in there, but we are looking at a much brighter day ahead for Wednesday. The winds do start to back off as we get through later Wednesday into Thursday, but still expect those winds to be going at a bit of a clip as we get through the day on Wednesday. Into Thursday, still some cloud hanging around the Hudson Bay coast. Could see a few flurries out of this along the Hudson Bay coast, Churchill, Shamattawa, maybe as far south as Gillam, looking at a few flurries, but the rest of us predominantly sunny and very cold as we get through the rest of the day on Thursday. Then we start to see some cloud building in as we get into Friday. This will be along a change in our pattern that will allow some warmer air to flow in time for the weekend, while also giving us a fairly good chance of some snow as we get later into the weekend and into early next week. So forecast temperatures, this is at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow. Your wake-up temperatures, minus 24 in Winnipeg, 26, 27s below for Brandon and Dauphin, and encroaching on minus 30 into parts of northern Manitoba. Factoring in the wind chill, we're looking at values close to minus 40 in parts of western Manitoba, minus 34 in Winnipeg at about 8 o'clock in the morning when you're waking up. This is frostbite on exposed skin in 10 minutes or less, factoring in some of those stronger winds that we're expecting through the morning hours tomorrow. So we are looking at some dangerous cold for the next couple of days at least into southern Manitoba and even into parts of the north. So minus 21 tomorrow afternoon, minus 23 for Thursday. Low temperatures in Winnipeg close to the minus 30 mark as we get through Thursday and Friday. But we keep the sunshine around into the weekend. Then we start to see a little bit of cloud building back in as we get into the weekend. Brittany, this gives us a fairly good chance of seeing some flurries as we get into Sunday.
We just have to get through the next few days.
Yes, exactly.
Thanks, Riley.
You're welcome.
The man accused of killing a health insurance executive in Manhattan has been denied bail. Well, he fights extradition back to New York. Luigi Mangione is in custody in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested Monday. CBC's Chris Reyes has the latest.
A dramatic moment as Luigi Mangione went into his extradition hearing in Pennsylvania, shouting and struggling. He yells something about insulting the intelligence of the American people and lived experience before 3 police officers pushed him into the building.
Oh my God, that's completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
The 26-year-old is in custody in connection to the shooting death of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. Thompson was gunned down last week on the sidewalk outside a hotel in Midtown Manhattan. Mangione is also facing firearm charges in Pennsylvania, where he was arrested on Monday at a local McDonald's. More details have surfaced about Mangione, an Ivy League graduate from a wealthy family with businesses in long-term health care facilities. Mangione's former classmate, Freddie Leatherberry, says he's shocked by all of it.
This is one of the last people you'd think would do something like this. You know, he was one of the nicest kids, most friendly kids that I had known at Gilman.
Mangione's lawyer has 2 weeks to challenge the extradition, while Pennsylvania authorities are working to secure a governor's warrant to speed up the process of sending Mangione back to New York. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
And here are some shots of Lindenwoods all ready for the holidays. We have more to come after the break. Stay with us. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has resurrected a comment about Canada becoming the 51st state. The remark first surfaced during his dinner with Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in Florida last month. Opposition politicians here are using it to question the government's ability to manage relationships with the new U.S. administration. Ashley Burke has the latest.
After Donald Trump made a late-night jab at the Prime Minister, calling him the governor, one cabinet minister compared it to a sitcom that famously blamed Canada for America's problems.
It sounds like we're living in an episode of South Park.
Around midnight, Donald Trump posted online, "It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada," and said he looks forward to continuing our in-depth talks about tariffs and trade, the results of which will be truly spectacular for all.
I'm sure not thinking of Justin Trudeau at midnight, so if he's thinking of Justin at midnight, it's probably a good relationship.
A positive spin after Trump's repeatedly poke fun at Canada. At this Mar-a-Lago dinner last month, Trump reportedly joked about Canada becoming America's 51st state. Days later, he posted this AI-generated image that sparked an internet frenzy, teasing about a Canadian takeover.
We're subsidizing Canada.
Then on Sunday, Trump leaned in more while talking to NBC about what he sees as an unfair trade deficit.
If we're going to subsidize them, let it become a state.
Clearly, he's joking. We're a sovereign nation. A lot more.
Trump's latest jab comes after Trudeau warned yesterday a tariff war between the two countries could drive up costs for Americans.
We will, of course, as we did 8 years ago, respond to unfair tariffs.
Sources say cabinet ministers are considering a $1 billion border plan and possible retaliatory tariffs.
We're doing that work right now, and we will have more to say in due course. Mr. Bulleris, what do you think?
But some NDP MPs question Trudeau's ability to manage Trump.
We can see right now that President Trump doesn't respect Mr. Trudeau, and it worries me.
I don't think Mr. Trudeau's handling the domestic political situation well. I have less confidence he'll be able to do it internationally.
The Prime Minister is expected to speak to premiers tomorrow about Trump and the border. Ontario's premier says the government promised to present a plan laying out its approach to negotiations with the U.S. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Ottawa.
Along with his ongoing jabs at Canada's Prime Minister, Trump seems committed to his threat of tariffs on Canadian goods. The basis of the threat is border security and, in particular, drug trafficking. But as CBC's Katie Simpson found out, the evidence doesn't support Trump's accusations, and his incoming administration may be looking for other concessions.
One of the biggest takeaways from the Mar-a-Lago dinner for the Canadian side, how serious Donald Trump is about trying to stop the flow of fentanyl.
I said you have to close up your borders, and drugs are pouring in. Almost as importantly, drugs are pouring in, maybe more importantly.
The president-elect's broad complaints about drugs, lumping problems at the northern and southern border together, have frustrated officials in Ottawa.
Local enforcement or federal enforcement.
And we found in Washington bewilderment among some experts at a conference focused on the fentanyl crisis.
It is extraordinary to think that anybody could read any of the data that are available and think that Canada is a threat to the U.S. with respect to fentanyl.
According to U.S. Customs and Border Protection, less than 20 kilograms of fentanyl was seized along the northern border with Canada. Compare that to more than 9,000 kilograms at the southern border with Mexico.
The main source of the fentanyl is outside of Canada and the United States.
And that is?
It's through a collaboration of people in China and Mexico. So that puts Canada and the United States together, sort of on the same side.
So if it's not about fentanyl, what might Trump really be after? According to one of his allies, he could want Canada to make some sweeping changes.
If you don't go after the money, you can't stop drug trafficking.
David Asher led a Trump-era task force on fentanyl. He says Ottawa needs to toughen its racketeering laws and give authorities bold new powers to go after banks involved in money laundering, some of it comparable to the Patriot Act in the U.S.
So Prime Minister Trudeau has the power to fix these things. I think if he goes ahead and announces that he's going to pass new laws and introduce new laws first, that address these gaps, it'll help with President Trump, I'm certain.
Other experts we spoke with agree Canada could do more to try to deal with larger systemic issues, cracking down on money laundering and organized crime. In response to Trump's tariff threats, Ottawa is pledging to spend upwards of $1 billion on border security, with major announcements expected by the holiday break. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
There are growing calls for more and better training for security guards following the death of a 20-year-old man in Edmonton. He was shot and killed just 3 days into the job. CBC's Julia Wong has the story and a warning: you may find some of the images and details disturbing.
Security camera video appears to show how quickly things escalated in this Edmonton apartment building last Friday, the last moments of Harshandeep Singh's life. Two people, one with a gun, are seen approaching the 20-year-old security guard. Another security video appears to show he was pushed into a stairwell, then shot in the back. Both videos have been circulating on social media. Edmonton police say they are aware, but decline to comment. Two people have been charged with first-degree murder.
It's unimaginable. It's it's not something that we can really fathom as how the family is going through this.
Singh was from India. He had been in Canada for 18 months and wanted to be a police officer. A family spokesperson said he had only been on the job for 3 days and wasn't even supposed to be working that day.
He was actually covering for someone on that third day, and he wasn't originally scheduled to work.
Grieving relatives wonder why he was there.
Harshandeep was placed there, was deployed there with zero training, with no partner, no equipment to defend himself.
I can't sleep. I've been really thinking about the dangers of my job.
This security guard says he used to patrol the building where Singh was killed.
That building is bad. It is known for problematic issues. It is heartbreaking to know that that man died alone, and it could have been prevented.
If you're that new and by yourself in a high crime area, I think that's just unfortunately, a recipe for disaster.
In many provinces, you only need to do 40 hours of coursework to become a security guard, and it can be done online.
I would like to see more on-site drills, more on-site practice in that sense, giving guards a sense of what is it like to be stressed.
Community members are working together to return Singh's remains to his family in India. Julia Wong, CBC News, Edmonton.
The federal government is trying to entice more Canadian homeowners to build secondary suites on their property. Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland has announced Ottawa is doubling the limit of their loan program. Starting in the new year, homeowners can borrow up to $80,000 to build a garden suite, laneway house, or basement apartment.
It builds on existing measures in place, allowing homeowners to refinance their mortgage to help cover the cost of adding a secondary suite. Borrowers can access up to 90% of the post-renovation home value, up to $2 million, amortized over a period of up to 30 years.
More details will be revealed on Monday when Freeland presents the fall economic statement. It's now 3 days since rebels toppled Syria's president, but evidence of his brutal regime continued to be uncovered. And as Briar Stewart reports, the country's political future also remains uncertain.
In a hospital in Damascus, families carry out a grim search, checking to see if their loved ones are among the 40 dead found at a morgue. Rebel forces say the bodies showed signs of torture. What did these people do to deserve this? Yelled this man. Hundreds of thousands were killed in Syria's civil war. Some who survived have little to come back to. The homes are destroyed. No windows, no door, no electricity, nothing, says this woman. More than 6 million Syrians are refugees. About half of them are in Turkey, which has now opened up an additional border crossing to help those who want to return. I'm crying because I'm leaving here, said this man who fled to Turkey in 2011. In Syria, a caretaker prime minister has been appointed. Mohammed al-Bashir ran an administration in northwest Syria which was controlled by HTS, the rebel group which ousted Bashar al-Assad. Bashir will now lead the transitional government until March 1st. Beyond that, Syria's political future remains unclear. Israel has carried out a series of airstrikes targeting military facilities, including Syria's naval fleet. It's also destroyed a research center reportedly linked to the country's chemical weapons program. Israel's defense minister said the military will move to set up what it calls a sterile defense zone in southern Syria. Israel has already positioned troops into a demilitarized buffer zone between the occupied Golan Heights and Syria.
This is a turning point for Syria. It should not be used by its neighbors to encroach on the territory.
Turkey, too, has been striking military targets controlled by the Kurdish militia in the north. Around Syria's borders, there's potential for more violence. Even as the rebel forces, now in power inside, continue to talk about uniting the country along a new path. Briar Stewart, CBC News, London.
An Ontario man says he and his young daughter were held at gunpoint after an intruder broke into their home. But when he called 911, he was placed on hold. That story coming up after the break. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. The victim of a home invasion in Ontario is telling a harrowing story about being put on hold when he called 911. He says it happened 4 times while his house was being ransacked and he and his young daughter were held at gunpoint. CBC's Farah Morali reports.
The frantic moments not long after an armed group allegedly broke into Theo Meadows' house.
So he stuck the gun at me through this hole here, like actually put it through the broken glass.
Meadows met at our studios, still afraid to bring people into his home after what happened. That night, as the armed intruders smashed his window, he called for help.
I ran into my bedroom, grabbed my phone. That was when I called 911 for the first time. And as soon as I put the call through, I got a please hold. It was like a pre-recorded like ringtone sort of thing. So it was just, or OPP, please hold.
Meadows says he tried calling 911 twice more while the intruders were still in his home. Each time, he says, the same hold message. Meanwhile, the situation became even more frightening.
As I'm telling them where they can go to the closet to find anything valuable, my 5-year-old daughter opens her door and she comes out of her room in her nightgown, just like rubbing her eyes. And this guy takes the gun off of me and puts the gun right up to her head. It was kind of the most desperate, helpless feeling I've ever had. Like, that's kind of the only way to describe it. And the guy was standing right about here.
The whole ordeal, he says, over in minutes. Meadows says it wasn't until his 4th 911 call, after the group had left, that someone answered.
I mean, at this point, I've kind of completely given up on police response coming to help us, because it's like everything's done.
Emergency? Do you need police, ambulance, or fire?
CBC News has reported extensively on 911 wait times in the city of Toronto. Where Meadows lives is patrolled by Ontario Provincial Police, where 911 calls go to 4 call centres province-wide.
In a statement, the OPP said it couldn't comment on this case as it's an active investigation. When it comes to call centre staffing, it also wouldn't say anything, citing officer and public safety purposes.
But it maintains that of the more than 1 million 911 calls it received last year, 75% were answered within 14 seconds. This advocate says 911 call center staffing remains a problem countrywide.
If we don't sort of take that step and start investing in our public safety communicators, the problem that you're seeing in parts of Ontario, it's not going to get better. And it's probably going to get worse.
While they were breaking in, there's my daughter's chalk set and sandcastle toys.
Meadows says he's sharing his story to push for changes to the service.
All I know is that on the worst day of my life, it didn't work at all.
Farah Morali, CBC News, Toronto.
Thousands of people in Southern California have been ordered from their homes due to a fast-moving wildfire. More than 8,000 homes and other structures were under threat as the fire burned near Pepperdine University. Students sheltering inside looked on.
We're going to the cap.
Franklin Fire, as it's known, has been moving south, fueled by strong Santa Ana winds. Officials estimate the wildfire has already burned more than 9 square kilometers of trees and dry bush. They still don't know what started it. A chaotic scene in the Philippines after Mount Canlaon erupted for the 2nd time this year. Schools were shut as a precaution, and 87,000 people who live near the mountain were evacuated. There are no immediate reports of casualties, but several surrounding communities were hit with falling ash. Riley's back in now, and I feel like we've kind of had everything over the past week. We've had sleet, we've had snow, we've had heavy winds. I know it's December, and it's something that we're dealing with, but man, oh man, it makes you not want to really get outside.
Yeah, in fact, with some of the conditions, particularly in the West Brittany, that we're expecting into the next couple of mornings, unless your pets are very prepared with the booties and the jackets and the whole 9 yards, you'd probably want to skip that dog walk.
I feel like it's a good sleep-in morning tomorrow, like for the next couple mornings at least.
Exactly, yeah. Let's get into that dog walking forecast because it is going to be a cold one, even here in Winnipeg, where we are looking at wind chill values close to minus 35. by the time we get into wake-up mode, earlier in the morning, it'll be a bit on the colder side. Jake might want to take the morning off tomorrow. Thanks, Sandra, for sending this picture, and you can keep sending yours to talkback at cbc.ca. So minus 24 first thing in the morning. Winds still at a bit of a clip, even with northwest winds 15 gusting to 30. That'll still drive that wind chill down quite considerably to around minus 35. That's frostbite on exposed skin in about 10 to 15 minutes out there with winds like this. Minus 21 through the afternoon, a mix of sun and clouds through the day tomorrow, and a partly cloudy minus 24 as we head into the evening. Looking at another cold night Wednesday night into Thursday, and again Thursday night into Friday across southern Manitoba. So a few days of some very cold weather ahead for us. So for tonight, looking at wind chills outside the city around that minus 38 mark through the overnight hours tonight. Minus 24 in Sprague, 25 below through Peguis into Gimli and into Westman. This is where we're looking at that wind chill at or below that minus 40 mark through the overnight hours. Minus 27 for both Swan River and Dauphin. Close to minus 30 into far northern Manitoba. This is where we're looking at wind chill values close to minus 45. That's frostbite on exposed skin in close to 5 to 10 minutes at temperatures like that. Winds, as I mentioned, still at a bit of a clip through the day on Wednesday. We are looking at winds starting to back off a bit as we get through the later morning into the afternoon hours. More like northwest 15 gusting 30 by the afternoon, but still looking at some very strong winds as we head through the day on Wednesday. Relatively speaking, doesn't take a lot of wind at temperatures like these to get some very cold conditions out there. So maybe a few flurries along the Hudson Bay coast. Minus 20 in Churchill by lunchtime, minus 19 through the afternoon. Compared that to where we're looking at more sunny conditions, minus 27s through Lynn Lake, minus 24 for Flin Flon, minus 23 into the Pas. Into southern Manitoba, waking up close to minus 30 in western sections of the province by lunchtime. Yeah, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds, even some cloudier conditions the further east you go into northwestern Ontario. By the afternoon hours, looking at temperatures barely getting over minus 25 in the west, Brittany, closer to minus 21, 23 through Winnipeg and the Red River Valley. Your 7-day forecast coming up.
Okay, thanks so much, Riley.
You're welcome.
Well, without them, our roads, mines, and railways wouldn't run. But don't call them grease monkeys. CBC's Jim Agapito visited RRC Polytech to hear why heavy-duty mechanics are so desperately in need, and why one female instructor is encouraging people to join them.
A lot of the perception with our trade is that we're grease monkeys, we bang things with a hammer to fix them, and that it's a job that requires little intelligence. We have to be the jack or Jill of all trades. We're working on HVAC systems, we're working on body work, we're working on the electrical side, we're working on three-phase systems sometimes, so the job that a normal electrician would do. We're working with computers, programming those computers. So it takes a higher level of intelligence to actually not only work on those systems, but fix them and reprogram them. A lot of our students are visual, hands-on learners. So for them, it's very exciting to keep their hands busy and keep their mind busy at the same time. And they're looking for that pace.
Well, I've always wanted to work on engines and be able to fix things, and especially in like today's society where a lot of things are throwaway versus repair anymore. And I think it's important to be sustainable and to be able to fix these things. I've never been a very academic person, but I've always loved to work with my hands and being able to see things. I'm a very visual learner. So I think it was a clear decision that I could come here and get my hands dirty and work with things, and I enjoy every minute of my schooling. All infrastructures are built on people being able to repair and maintain these things. And with the lack of tradespeople in today's society, because a lot more people are going towards university education and everything. So, there's a lack of people that have these skills. And so it's really important that young people get out and start doing these things, because soon we won't have a lot of the older tradesmen that are retiring.
You drive down Route 90 in Winnipeg and there's billboard after billboard after billboard posting that they have positions open for technicians with great benefits, great pension plans. They're really trying to entice people into this trade because we are so desperate. We have 4 female students this year out of 76, and that's huge for us. Normally we only have 1 female student a year, so it's been increased this year, which is very exciting. My uncles, my dad, my cousins were all mechanics. I come from a farming family, so I've been exposed to it my whole life. It's something that's always excited me, and I decided to go into it in high school, actually. And my choices were either nursing or being a mechanic, and I chose being a mechanic. I got to try it out in high school for about a half a term. I fell in love with it, and I haven't turned back since. They're excited to be able to work on their own vehicles or maybe build their own race car or rat rod. It's just the toys in it for them that they can be able to afford or purchase with a higher paying salary that they get being a mechanic in this trade, but also knowing how to work on it and fix it themselves. So they're really excited about that aspect.
Still ahead, Riley Lachuk is back with our last check on the forecast. You're watching CBC Winnipeg News. Stay with us. The honors keep coming for Canadian swimmer Summer McIntosh. The 18-year-old from Toronto has received the 2024 Northern Star Award as Canada's Athlete of the Year for her outstanding performance at the Paris Olympics. She won 3 gold medals and a silver at the Summer Games. And McIntosh has also set a new record at the World Aquatics Championships in Hungary.
And we're underway in the women's 400-meter freestyle.
McIntosh led from start to finish, taking the women's 400-meter freestyle in a world record time of 3 minutes 50.25 seconds. She cut more than a second off the old record. It's her first individual short course gold medal. McIntosh picks up $25,000 US for the record.
I'll remind you again of the extreme cold warnings we have in place for parts of western Manitoba, and I thought I'd remind us about what that means in terms of freeze time. So in Winnipeg, tomorrow morning, looking at a wind chill factor anywhere between -35, -38. If you want to put a number on it, what that means is frostbite on exposed skin in about 10 minutes or so through the early morning hours tomorrow, 10 to 15 minutes. In Brandon, looking at that wind chill at -40 in the morning. That's frostbite on exposed skin in 10 minutes or less. So very cold morning ahead. We have another couple of those ahead as we head into Thursday, into Friday. A much brighter sky. -23 though for a high on Thursday, -12 on Friday. Then we're looking at a bit of instability rolling through Sunday into Monday. -3 on Sunday. A falling temperature into Monday at -11 by the afternoon, and Tuesday -11 as well. Well, most Christmas candy houses don't generally last past December, but a church in British Columbia has one on auction that was made in 1971.
The secret to its longevity? It's our daily lift. Yes, it is made with real ingredients, but the base is styrofoam and the candies are glued on. The owner says it's had many renovations throughout the years, despite the glue, because many children have tried to take a bite at the candies.
If it does sell, it can go to another family who can put their own stamp on it, put their own decorations on it, and make it theirs, and hopefully enjoy it for many more years to come.
So she says the festive creation has traveled with her for the past 53 years, but it's time to let it go. The silent auction with this house in it runs for another 5 days yet.
Ooh, I don't think I'd want to try eating any of those candies. You might break a tooth.
I was going to say, break a tooth, might chip something in there.
Well, have a wonderful night. Stay warm, stay safe. We'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah.